This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Niche domination. Dun, dun, dun. Alan Berg, CSP. Let's talk about your niche. Let's talk about how you just totally claimed, owned, and dominate your niche, how that came to be, and how we might be able to do something similar for a tribe that we would love to serve and we would love to have follow us.
Sounds great.
So, you are the guru of wedding marketing.
Wedding business.
Wedding business.
Right.
Wedding business. How'd you get into that?
27 years ago, my best friend bought a wedding magazine franchise. I was in a job I hated. And he said, I don't want a partner. I want a salesperson. I want you. So I thought about it. My wife was pregnant, had a 3-year-old son, and it was a new industry, commission only, no salary, no draw, no minimum, no guarantee. So of course I went for it. And I sold for him for 5 years. And then I bought the 2 franchises. So I published 2 wedding magazines. And that's how I got into the industry. So I started speaking when I had my franchises. And my friend had brought in speaker to speak to our people. And he was really doing basically an infomercial for his stuff. This is 20 years ago. And I'm like, well, gosh, I could give that information and have them buy my stuff, which is the ads in the magazine. Because the thing about the wedding business is there's a very low bar to entry. If you want to be a wedding photographer, if you have a camera, you're qualified. Well, at least you have the equipment that you need. You want to be a DJ? Go to Guitar Center, go buy DJ equipment. So nothing qualifies you to be a business person just because you have a camera. The need was, I'm losing advertisers because they're not business people. So I started teaching them how to be better at business. Sold my franchises to the franchisor because they wanted me to come work for them. They got bought by the largest wedding website in the world. I was then working for them, and they put me on stage immediately because the VP of sales didn't want to do the speeches. So I did that, and for 11 years, this company called The Knot, like Tie the Knot, I was the main speaker. And then I was vice president of sales and vice president of sales operations, created the education, did webinars every month. In 2007, I was doing webinars every month already back then. So I was the speaker, and that's where my brand got defined, because I always tell people, what's their brand? Do they want someone or do they want you? When people said, can they not send someone to speak, that wasn't a brand. That was their brand. When they said, can Alan come? That was my brand. So when I got downsized 6 years ago, or as I like to say, I untied the knot.
Oh,
I already had a brand, and I just had to get rid of the comma. I was Alan Berg, comma, vice president at the Knot. So I had to get rid of the comma, and I created my own brand. Fortunately, I'd been an NSA member already at that point for 4 years. So I knew about the business of speaking. I now had to create my own speaking business. In 2013, we're Philly, right? 2013
Yes.
was Philly, at your hometown.
yeah.
I went to the conference with the sole purpose, do I want to narrow my niche or do I want to go wide and deep? I already had a book on websites called If Your Website Was an Employee, Would You Fire It? And it wasn't, is your wedding website an employee? It's a website book. I had a book called Your Attitude for Success, not Your Attitude for Successful Wedding Business. So these are books that would apply to anybody, but do I want to do that? And I said, well, I'm just another sales speaker. I mean, there's no shortage of us here at NSA. I'm just another website speaker. There's no shortage of us at NSA. But I'm the only guy that really knows this industry and can talk about those things. So I said, I'm going to go narrow and deep. I didn't know what deep meant. I mean, that's when we talk about our niche. How deep is our niche? Warren Buffett talks about how deep is your moat, right? You want to protect yourself with a big moat if you have a castle. How deep is my niche? Well, gosh, I've spoken all over the country. I'd spoken in Canada, and I spoke in Mexico. I was like, well, this is pretty cool. Well, as of now, I've spoken in 11 countries in 2 languages about the business of weddings. And the beautiful thing is I don't speak about weddings. That's a big misnomer. People say, oh, so you speak about weddings. I said, no, I speak to people who do them about business. So if you're a photographer in Mumbai, I've been there twice, what do you need to do? Attract an audience, get them to find your website, marketing, whatever, make an inquiry, get an appointment with them somehow, digitally, in person, make the sale. Then you take the pictures. That's the same in Uruguay. That's the same in Ireland. That's the same in Colorado. So I get to speak about that, the business of weddings, because I understand their needs. I understand those things. And here's a beautiful thing in my niche. It's a recession-resistant business. People get married no matter what. When the economy's down, you don't hear, oh gosh, weddings are down. They might spend differently, might spend a little less, but weddings are not down. So I'm in a business that people like to get into because low barrier to entry, recession-resistant business. And then they find out, I'm in a business. what the heck? I have to do business? I mean, I have to make sales. I have to do marketing. I have to do advertising. I have to do email marketing. I have to have a website. I don't know how to do that stuff. Right, because you're a florist. You're not supposed to know how to do that stuff. Oh, by the way, you're a speaker. You're not supposed to know how to do that stuff. That's what we come to NSA. So I chose this to go narrow and deep. And after I did, not before, after I did, deep became the abyss that I can't see the bottom. I don't know where the bottom is because then somebody contacts me, like I got the other day, hey, there's this thing in San Salvador in September. Maybe you can come and speak at. Well, gosh, I haven't spoken in El Salvador yet. Well, that's cool. Last year it was Uruguay and Panama. And, I don't know where the bottom is. So the niche kind of chose me because 27 years ago, I fell into the wedding industry. But then what are you good at? What do people get from you? That's what we talk about a lot in NSA. The people that I help very well are these people in the wedding industry because I understand their business. I understand business. And I'm able to relate it to what they do. So when I'm speaking to new speakers or speakers who are trying to think, should I niche or not niche my market? I said, well, who benefits a lot from what you do? Who tells you, wow, you've really helped me? And how have they helped you? Because you can try to be everything to everyone, but it's not going to work. There's no shortage of people that if you say, gee, what do you speak on? They say leadership. So I always say to them, to whom? Right? Speak on leadership. Great. Speak on leadership.
Anyone, Alan. Anyone. Everyone needs leadership.
Exactly. But if you are general and the insurance industry association, whatever, the nursing home owners association wants a speaker on leadership and you are a leadership speaker, you might get that gig. But if you're a leadership speaker on the healthcare industry or specifically to the geriatric part of the healthcare industry, all of a sudden you're much more attractive to them than someone who just speaks on leadership. So you can have more than one of those niches. I have multiple niches within my niche, the wedding industry. It's only $70 billion in the United States, so it's just getting started, right? $70 billion, but it's broken up into different categories. Almost half of that money is spent on the venue and food. My two biggest groups of consulting clients, because my biggest client is the biggest competitor to my former employer, so Wedding Wire. So I talk about advertisers because that's their clients. My two biggest categories are the caterers and venues, which makes up almost half of the money that's spent on weddings, and then the disc jockey industry. And I kind of just fell into that. I understand them real well. We connected real well with them. I did a mastermind in UK last year, 10 DJs, 11 of us sitting around a boardroom table. At the end of the day, one of them said, hey, Alan, how long were you a DJ? I said, I've never been a DJ. He said, what do you mean? I said, I've never been a DJ. He said, but you understand my business better than I do. I said, yes, I do, but I've never been a DJ because I can get all the way to the point where you have to do the DJing and then you have to know that skill because it's a different skill. So I do know your business better because I've worked with more DJs than you'll ever work with. I've seen the insides and under the hood of their businesses more than you ever will. But I don't have to be a DJ to do that. So if you want to speak to the nursing home industry, I'll just go back to that one. Are your speaking topics written to the nursing home industry or are they written to leadership? I'm a leadership speaker and I can help leaders be better leaders because they're better leaders because when they're better leaders, they want to be better leaders.
And they also lead better.
Yeah, usually they do. So I've heard.
Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show.
I actually had something interesting probably about 10 years ago. Somebody said, I want you to come and it's the florist group, only talk about florists. I had to speak to 3 different groups within the course of about 2 months, specific categories, because sometimes I'll speak to a group of mixed wedding professionals. But this was a floral convention, and then there was a DJ convention, and then there was a photographer convention. I gave the same speech at all 3, but I changed the title, and I changed all the references within it to their industry. The florist said, thank you for just giving us something about florists. And the DJ said, thank you for just giving us something about DJs. And I just left the Kendra Hall's session to come here, and she was talking about storytelling. People remember the stories. Well, when I tell a story to the florals, I don't talk about the DJs. I talk about florists, and I tell them a floral story and how someone overcame a challenge or whatever. So I'm not going to say that's all you need to do to be in a niche, but when you speak their language and use their words, people relate to you better. We mirror, right? We mirror their language, we mirror their tone, we mirror their energy. The next book I'm writing is about digital communication.
For florists and photographers and DJs.
Right. Or in the case of my latest book, I chose to make it for my industry. It's the first of my books for the industry. My other books are not. So I still have, if your website was an employee, would you fire it? And I've had NSAers who have read it and bought it, and I've had other people in all industries, because it's not about the wedding industry. Half the references are the wedding industry, and then I talk about a plumber and a doctor and a whatever. Your attitude for success, it's not about an industry. It's about successful people who take action, right? People who think, well, that might fail, and then they don't do anything, they don't succeed. Successful people go, let's go for it. If it doesn't work, maybe we'll get a different result we like better. That's success attitude. It has nothing to do with an industry. But the latest book, I wrote a sales book, and I had to make a choice. Is it another book that's like my others, or am I going to go all in for the wedding industry? Because that's mostly who buys my book. So Shut Up and Sell More Weddings and Events is the name of the book. I could have left off weddings and events and put other references in. I've toyed so far with my assistant. I said, what if we took all the references and made them all photographer references? Shut Up and Sell More Wedding Photography. Made them all for DJs. Shut Up and Sell More Wedding DJ services. Shut Up and Sell More catering. I could do that with that same book, and they would sell within those, and I would solidify my place as the expert in that industry.
Now, is that what you're going to do?
The book just came out. We're toying with it. Just came out in Spanish. The audiobook is now on Audible as of Friday. Woo-hoo.
Nice.
Recorded in my personal studio. I call it Andover Textile Studios. I live on Andover Drive. I recorded it in my closet, which is filled with textiles, which is the best sound deadening, right? Best sound deadening. So Andover Textile Studios. If you look at it on Audible, it says recorded live by Alan Berg in Andover Textile Studios. Now that I know how to do it, and now I know how well to do it and what I need outside help for, I actually want to record the audiobook in Spanish. That's my next project. And then we're going to look at maybe doing those specific copies of the print book.
Wow, fantastic. So let me unpack. We've talked about so much, and they're like gems are just like spilling onto the floor. So number one, I want to just get your quick take, maybe a little quick kind of rapid fire 30-second takes on this. Number one, a lot of our colleagues are coming out of an industry, like you came out of an industry, and the last thing they want to do is serve that in. It's like, oh, I'm getting out. And just like The Godfather, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Would you encourage people not to dismiss that out of hand, going, I'm never going back into construction. I'm never going back into pharmaceuticals. Would you say that's a dumb idea to dismiss that out of hand?
Well, if you've just come out of that industry and you want to go into something brand new, you're starting from scratch. So I would say that you have to take the emotion out of that and say, well, what did I not like about it? Because I found out what I didn't like about what the industry I was in. I didn't like the corporate world. I was self-employed for 10 years, went into the corporate world. And it wasn't the extreme corporate world because the company was kind of a startup. It just had its IPO and then built, and all of a sudden we're 650 people. And it became corporate BS, and it became conference calls, and it became all that stuff that I loathed. But what I loved was the people. And what I loved was helping the people. So I said, there's my business model. I don't like to do that, whatever this thing is. I'm not going to do it. I've had people throwing money at me saying, Alan, you're so good at rewording the pages on the website. How about you just do it and just bill me for it? And I said, no, because I'm a social being. I could do this all day long. I think we have. But I could do this all day long. But what I hate is sitting in my office by myself doing whatever typing. I don't even write my books in my office. I write books on the plane because no email, no phones, no nothing. That's when I get my quiet time. But when I'm sitting in my office and I'm rewriting your webpage, it kills me. So I don't do it. It's not about the money. I don't do it. So I think about what did you like about what you did? Because you didn't hate everything about your industry. I'll give you a good example. A friend of mine retired, 55 years old, retired. Been working in the same company almost 30 years. He had saved up enough money. He's out. He said, I'm done. That's it. We're retired. Somebody else in his industry that he knew said, I want you to, help me out. He's like, no, I'm done. Well, it was 2 days a week. And he said it was stupid money. And he gets to travel and he gets to go to the beach and he gets to all that. And he does it. So he was retired. But what did he hate? He didn't want to go to the same office again. He didn't want to deal with those people and whatever his BS was that he was trying to deal with.
Right, absolutely.
So find out what you did love and maybe make that your starting point, your little ember.
Perfect. Second thing, and this is seems like you're at this crossroads almost always because it keeps coming back. When you're looking at generic Alan, business expert, marketing expert, sales expert, business growth expert versus wedding industry business, wedding industry growth. I'm sure that you've had this tape playing in your head. I'm sure people have said this to you. Alan, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. True or false, or what's your reaction to that when we say, oh, well, you should be doing this for everyone, like zookeepers need this and accounting firms need this. Are we leaving money on the table, or are we actually finding the pot of gold?
For me, it's finding the pot of gold, because when I go for the money, it's disingenuous and it never satisfies. So I know what I love. I know the people that I love. And the only time I work outside my industry is when someone sees me doing what I do. So I had a wedding planner who brought her dentist husband to hear me speak at an event. And he came to me after. He said, gosh, Alan, everything you said applies to my practice. I said, yes, it does. But this is where I speak. I will speak outside the industry when I'm asked. I don't look for the work. And I have turned down work when it's not right. Again, we have to have integrity in what we do. I recommended 5 other CSPs because it was medical related in New York and the rules were crazy and whatever. And this guy was throwing money. David, it was going to be twice what I had ever been paid for a speech. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not available on your date. And he said, we can change the date. I'm like, come on. His daughter had just seen me speak twice. They did sales training for her venue. She gave him my book. He read my book. He said, I love it, love it, love it. Want you, only you, only you, only you. And I turned it down.
Wow. It's hard to turn down that, not only the money, but it's hard to turn down that kind of love.
Exactly. But if you think about how long it would take me to learn what I needed to learn, to do what I had to do, it was going to hurt my other clients.
Right.
So I like to challenge myself within what I do. So if somebody says, hey, can you do this? And it's a little different, I'll go, yeah. I just had somebody, I did sales training from caterer in actually Philadelphia. And he called me up and he said, you know what we could really use? We could really use another day of doing this. And his son had just come home from medical school. It's actually a really interesting thing. And he said, in medical school, they do watch one, do one, teach one. He said they had to watch somebody do it, then they had to do it, and then they had to teach somebody else how to do it. He said, I think there's applications for us. I was like, wow, that's really cool. He said, I think we could do something with my people. So for a reduced fee, I offered to come and do that for him because he gave me the idea. I'm learning it. When I'm an expert, I get full fee. I'm learning how to do that. I'm going to do that for him. It's still within my market. That's going to become a new business for me. That's going to become part of my business. In the Laurie Guest model of offering them 3 things. I didn't really have 3. I was like, ding, ding, ding.
That's like a lab, right? The watch one, do one, teach one.
Exactly. Instead of just role playing, it's okay. Let me show you how to do it. Okay, now you do it. And now you teach somebody else how to do it.
Love that. Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. Let's also talk about another powerful lesson from your story, which is finding the niche within a niche. So you said, okay, it's weddings. I'm all weddings all the time. But of course, under that, there's a sub-niche, photographers.
Right.
There's a sub-niche, florists. There's a sub-niche, catering and venues. So how could we find, or how do we think about these either sub-niches or these adjacent niches that are very tightly aligned that open up new worlds of possibility?
I think you have to deconstruct your market. So my market was deconstructed by those categories. I could go even deeper to that and say, okay, well, I have DJs that only do weddings versus DJs that do weddings and quinceañeras and bar mitzvahs and whatever. I could start breaking it down even more. So if you look at it and say it's healthcare, well, that's not one market. Within healthcare, is it the C-suite in healthcare? Is it the middle management in healthcare? Is it the doctors? Is it the nurses? Is it the orderlies? Is it the volunteers? Is it the whatever? And just start to break it down and say, where are the layers, whether they're vertical or horizontal, within my market? So mine is horizontal and then goes vertical. So when I get into caterers, I have caterers that own venues and caterers that don't. And then I have within caterers, I have caterers that have multiple venues versus caterers that only have one. So I can still start breaking it down and saying, well, where are they? Well, I know that if I'm looking only for people that own 10 or more wedding venues, there's not that many. Now, I can do those, and I have some of those clients. There just aren't that many. So I can be the guy to them, and I am. But there's nobody else to get because there aren't people that have that. So then you start looking, all right, where else do you want to go? So take a look at your market and say, where's the grid? Where's the verticals, the horizontals? And then what can I do for each of those? And then you start tailoring your topics.
Love that. And I'm getting super excited about this, but now I'm also terrified of something else that every one of our listeners is thinking. They're saying, Alan, this all sounds great. I've got a deep, specific, niched business. I'm doing all these different things. Everyone thinks that I'm the guy or the gal just specifically for that sub niche or that micro industry. how do I do this on my website? How do I have one piece of marketing or one website or one video or one sheet that says not just weddings, but photographers are a specialty, catering and venues are a specialty, florists are a specialty. We have static marketing materials, but a very active, very flexible marketing and sales plan now. How do you compromise those two together?
Well, are your different levels close enough together, like in mine, caterers, photographers, whatever, all within the wedding group, that I can still have one umbrella? Or do I need different umbrellas? So you can have your two different things. You can be your humorist one and then your scientific one, whatever you are. You can have those and have separate websites. Sometimes you don't want your markets crossing. I have a woman I met does dove releases, right? White doves at the church. She does them for weddings and for funerals. I said, please tell me you have separate websites. The people for funerals don't care that you do them at weddings. They think, okay, it's a happy time. Let's do this thing. The people with weddings go, oh, you do this at funerals? Oh, no, I don't do this. I have a client who has a name change service. So when you get married and you want to change your name, there's a lot of complications with that. And they help you with all the forms and all that. Well, they don't tell you that they have another site for if you get divorced and how to change your name the other way. And I thought it would be brilliant marketing. Listen, if this doesn't work out, come on back, 50% off, we'll help you change it back. So they don't tell you that. They have to have separate places for that. Do you need separate places? I have separate places on my site for the different services that I offer. The way that I show each of those niches that I understand you is actually using reviews and testimonials. I'm huge on reviews and testimonials.
So you segment those.
Well, so I'll give you an example. My sales training page or my mastermind page. So mastermind for me is when someone wants me to do sales training and they can't afford me. I say, get some other people together. Let's do it as a group. Came organically, by the way, from a customer. Customer came to me and said, I can't afford it myself. If I have 4 other friends, can we do it together and split it? And I was like, yes, ding, ding, ding. You just created a service for me. Okay, or product. Love it. So on my mastermind page, it says what kind of businesses attend Alan's masterminds. Instead of it being just a list, it says venue with a testimonial from a venue. It says florist with a testimonial from a florist. And when I say testimonial, I mean a sentence or two. And then it has a name, a city, state, company name. So I have the different categories listed with a testimonial from someone in that category who said, oh my gosh, it was the best thing ever. The one testimonial I didn't want to show my wife was a makeup artist in Kansas City. She went from $4,500 in business January of last year to $14,500 in business January of this year. And she wrote me a testimonial in caps. Holy cow, Alan Berg rocked my world. I didn't want to show my wife that one, but it's on the website. But when you're reading that the emotion that's in that is not Alan Berg helped my business by helping me increase my sales threefold in a year, right? No, holy cow, Alan Berg rocked my world. Somebody else reading that going, well, I do hair and makeup for weddings. I want my world rocked, right?
So it's not important. This is a huge distinction. I love this, Alan. It's not important that the website says this is just for florists, but it's inclusive and there's a variety of the people that you want to serve. So one from a florist, one from a photographer, one from a venue, one from a caterer, and that just communicates this is for me.
Right.
I could identify with that woman who said, Alan rocked my world.
Exactly, because just like Kendra Hall was talking this morning about storytelling, the testimonials are the story. My brand is defined by them. Your brand is defined by your customers, not by you. You say, well, hi, I'm David and I can help you do this. Great. And then somebody says, David, help me do this. As a matter of fact, when I talk about websites, I know I'm not doing that. 4 things you need to have on every page of your site are an aspirational image, because without a picture, there's nothing there. For us speakers, it's tough, right? It's me speaking. Guess what? Here's another picture of me speaking and another. That's why my homepage is actually a picture from backstage.
Make it about them.
Exactly. Second thing, text that talks to them about them. I've heard this over and over here over the years. I preach it to my people. Use the word you, don't use the word I.
Right.
Social proof. Somebody else saying it's true and saying things you can't or won't say, and then call to action if you want this kind of result. So
book an appointment, book a call.
Right, and give them all the things. So mine says, call me, text me, email me, or use the short form on this page. There's a short contact form on every page of my site. By the way, you want better conversion, put a short contact form on every page of your website. So the testimonials are specific to either the category, the service, or whatever. So in my case, I have a page for website reviews, a page for sales training, a page for mastermind, a page for pop-up wedding workshop, a page for speaking, right? So one page for each of those things. That page is all in about that service, but the testimonials show that I do different niches within my niche and I'm international. So there's one from the UK and one from Uruguay and one from Mexico. There's one in Spanish. There's one from India. And all of that, without me having to necessarily say it, it's like, oh, wow, there's somebody in Mumbai that wrote a testimonial. There's somebody in Canada that wrote a testimonial. Whoa, this guy's all over. I've actually had people say that to me. I looked at your calendar. It's like, you must be the guy. Some people put their calendar, some don't. I put my calendar current and past, and people just look at that and go, well, you must be the guy. I didn't have to say that. It was there. It was already there.
People are smart.
Right. But the testimonials and reviews is huge because they're going to say the things that somebody else wants to get. They're going to say the results someone else wants to get. You can't give them stats. You can't say your business is going to go up 37%. You can't. You have no idea if it's going to do that because if they don't take the actions, you don't know. But when somebody says my business is up 37% because of what David did or because of what Alan did, that's their truth. And somebody else reads, I go, well, I would like that. That would be very nice. So then they want to contact you because your call to action said to do that. So I think if you have the CEO of the hospital, the head of the doctors, and then you had the head of
Chief Nursing Officer,
you have the head of the volunteers, you have the security guy, whatever it is, and you have all these different things. This is, oh, well, everybody's benefiting from this. And that's how you can do it. Let your customers do that. Now, but if you're going for really different pillars, I would create separate websites.
Or if there's an emotional impact to combining things that's negative, like, great example of the weddings and the funerals. Like, wait a second, you do weddings? No, I'm out. Wait a second, you do funerals? No, I'm out. That would indicate you're better off with separate sites.
Right. I had a baker who did wedding cakes. And she said, do you think I should have a separate site from my bakery to the weddings? I said, I would. If I was you, I would, because the people buying cookies on Tuesday could be the people buying wedding cakes. So on your bakery site, you're going to say weddings. But on your wedding cake site, it's all weddings all the time.
Right, pure.
So when you're advertising on a site like Wedding Wire or The Knot, you're going to link them right to the cake site.
Right.
They're never going to see cookies and bread.
You go to my website, dude, you never see cookies, you never see bread. Alan, thank you. This was tremendously valuable. You the man.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Let's do this again.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.